Alright, today's quick video is going to be about Flat Earth, because we keep talking about that. And I want to recap the other videos I've done. My first video on disproving Flat Earth was basically talking about how there's so many countries in the world that have space agencies, 79 of them, that have orbital capabilities, 15 of them, that can put men up into space, 5 of them, that can actually visit other terrestrial bodies, 3 of them. And all of the people and all of the other companies that supply those endeavors, there's no way the Earth is flat. That disproves flat Earth right there. Just that alone. And no, it's not an argument from population or whatever that one's called. It's simply not, because these people rely on the math and the science based on globe Earth revolving the planet around the sun. It just, everything they do, and all of the engineers, and all of the scientists, and all of the mechanics, and all of the laborers, and everybody who's watching, and everybody who's putting it together, and all of those scientists that watch all of those rockets shoot up into space and deposit a satellite in orbit, visit the ISS, go to the moon, go to Mars, look at the sun, put up a telescope. All of those people are using math based on the globe Earth. And that's something you cannot argue against. If in fact you want to try and argue that, then you have to prove one of two things. That's the way I say it. It's one of two things. Either all of those people are in on the hoax, that they know it's a flat Earth and they're just lying to us who are watching it, who can follow all of the data, who can look at it and say, okay, if I look up in this space, if I look up in this portion of space, I should be able to see the ISS on this day at this hour. And what do you know? There it is on that day at that hour. So somebody's feeding me that data. So somehow that's all made up. You gotta believe that they're all lying about it and they're just making it up. Or someone's actually feeding them the data. So that when they see the data and they says, okay, Perseverance has landed on the Mars surface, that actually landed on the surface. Somebody somewhere. So it's just a conspiracy theory that's just mind-blowingly stupid and insane, and it can't be. The next one we looked at was ICBMs, Minuteman IIIs, mostly because I worked on them in from 90 to 94 in the United States Air Force up in Minot, North Dakota, and I was made aware when I was there in the 90s that just a few years before we got there, they still referenced the missile guidance program by using a theodolite and 3 pedestals and Polaris. How can that be? How can that be if the Earth's flat? I think I know Minot had 150 missiles alone, and then there was Minot, Maelstrom, F.E. Warren, Fargo, and one in Missouri. All had Minuteman missiles. I think Maelstrom might have had Peacekeepers. But the point is, you had 150 of each of those bases. So something like 600 missiles that 10 years earlier were all referenced, meaning that the missile had to know where it was in position on the Earth to be able to go and drop its payload against the country we were going to fight. So it had to know where it was. And the way it knew where it was by men in the field aligning the site with Polaris using theodolites and 3 pedestals and the geography of the land. And that took 16 hours. So you had hundreds and hundreds of men doing this procedure. Hundreds of men that week after week after week, month after month after month would align those missiles doing that procedure. And what, they were in on the gag? They weren't actually doing it? It's just ridiculous. Now, how do you know it would work? Because twice a year, randomly, the Air Force would pull a missile that had been sitting in a silo for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. They would pull that missile, take the nukes off of it, ship it over to Vandenberg, and then they would launch it. Doing everything that I just described. They would launch it, and then it would deliver its reentry vehicles, the RVs, the payload, up to 4 of them, in the Pacific Ocean somewhere around some atoll. And you know what? You could see it leave, and you could see the reentry vehicles hitting the target. How is that possible if the fucking Earth is flat? Sorry, I get riled up. It's not flat. Then we talked about the World War I and World War II submarines. And I showed how so many of those sunken submarines, there's so many of them that you can go and look and see if you wanted to go scuba diving, if you could do that. Off the east coast of America, in the Mediterranean, off the coast in the Atlantic Ocean, off the coast of Spain and Italy and England and Norway and all those other ones, France, Portugal. You can go and see these submarines. They're actually in the ocean. They're marked there by longitude and latitude. How's that possible? But before even that, how did those commanders of those subs maneuver around? They used charts, maps, stars, sun, moon, based on around Earth that orbits the sun. And it worked. It worked. A wolf pack, which was a fleet of, not a fleet, but a bunch of U-boats, German submarines were called wolf packs. They would go and look. They would know, okay, the shipping lane is here. It's at longitude this, latitude that. We're leaving our Germany port here. We have to go there. So they used a map and a chart, and they got out and they looked up at the sky, and they looked up at the stars, and they looked up at the sun and the moon and whatever, and they charted their path there, and it worked. And they got there, and they sunk thousands, hundreds of millions of tons of ship between the two wars. These three things are three of the things that we talked about so far. Okay, so how does Halley's Comet prove around Earth? Well, a little history about Halley's Comet. By the way, the pictures you're seeing as I'm speaking are from all different periods of time throughout history, where you can see Halley's Comet in the pictures. And then, of course, later on, I think in 1910, you're going to see pictures of Halley's Comet as taken from different points on Earth. Okay, but the first time Halley's Comet was observed was 466 BC, then again in 239 BC by the Greeks and by the Chinese. It was then noted again in 146 BC and 87 BC. And again, so you get an idea. Here's this comet who's not tied into what people think, but it keeps coming back every 76 years. Most famously, it was seen in 1066 when William the Conqueror invaded England. There's a tapestry of that. And then again in 1301, an Italian painter, the Italian painter, I can't say his name, but he painted it, and he was inspired by it, and you can see it in the tapestry here, or the painting here. So the comet appeared again in 1531, 1607, and 1682. All right, and Halley noticed a pattern. Halley, the astronomer, noticed a pattern, and he thought that the comet's going to return again in 1758. He died in 1742, so he didn't live to see it come again. But in 1758, sure enough, Halley's Comet came again. So what's that mean for flat Earth? That's the nail in the coffin right there. That's it. There is no flat Earth. And this proves it, because the comet keeps coming back every 76 years or so, 75, 76 years or so. It's following the trajectory of everything else, all the other planets and celestial bodies in the universe, or in the galaxy. We all rotate around the sun. So that right there is proof of the model of the sun being the center and the Earth and the other bodies orbiting around it. Because that's what Halley's Comet's doing. And Halley knew that, and he used the math that flat Earth, he didn't use flat Earth math. Because there is none, because it doesn't exist, because the Earth. And again, I think it's 76 years from 1986, so 2064. Anyway, so Halley's Comet, one more debunking the flat Earth. There's no explanation for Halley's Comet in a flat Earth model, which the flat Earth people do not have. I keep saying that. See, the flat Earth people, every time they come out with something, it gets debunked or disproven by the smart people. I'm not one of those smart people. I can't tell you why. If you're standing 50 miles offshore, you can see the top of the Sears Tower or whatever. Those are for the smart people with geometry and all that other shit. What I'm doing is just showing you by these different methods that all of these people around the world for thousands of years, right? Millions upon millions, perhaps even billions of people count on the charts and the maps and the miles and the kilometers and the distances that they get by around Earth, orbiting a sun. That's the way it works. And this is just evidence of that. You cannot refute any of what I've shown so far. Everything I've shown so far has worked because the people who make it work do the math based on around Earth. Okay? So I know one of the famous ones is how does water stick to a ball? Well, it does. How does the sun not lose all its plasma? Gravity. Okay. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I know this is a small part about new stuff, more about what we already covered, but I think it's important that it's just another way of disproving around flat Earth. Disproving the flat Earth because it just doesn't exist. It's tiring, it's boring, but I enjoy making these videos. I learn a lot when I do them. I know nobody's watching them. That's fine with me. But just one more nail in the coffin for flat Earth. Halley's Comet. Hope you enjoyed it. Do all the things you're supposed to do. Thumbs up, subscribe, and notification, and I'll catch you on the next one. See you.